Hey friends, welcome back to the second episode of Brand Practice featuring our friends from Lincoln Design Co. Don't forget to head over to their website, lincolndesignco.com, where you can shop from all their amazing, well thought out products, but as well follow along with today's episode where we review work they did for WWE superstars, Polaris, and the brand new Hammer Time logo. That's lincolndesignco.com/brand practice. But just go to their website, shop, look around. Always something good happening over at lincolndesignco.com. Speaking of the brand new Hammer Time Tish, it is available today over at vghc.com. We have 2 different Hammer Time shirts. Make sure you spin over there, grab a beautiful blouse, and let the world know that you celebrate Hammer Time on the AID network. But Hammer Time doesn't drop till this Friday when we preview Emilio's birthday party. Yes, the birthday party, 60th birthday party is this weekend. I am ready to culturally have my mind blown. But until then, let's enjoy Brand Practice with Lincoln Design Co. It's episode number 2, and it starts right after this. Hey friends, how would you like a 4-day work week or a 4-day vacation? Both of those sound pretty good to me right now, but let me offer you this. How about a 4-day turnaround time on most popular apparel options? That's right, it's 4-day apparel from Jack Prince. No rush fees, no hassle, no BS, no problems. Jack Prince has got you taken care of in just 4 short days. That's right, the 4-day apparel. And we're not talking garbage tees. We're talking great stuff like the popular All Style, 1301, American Apparel, Next Level, Toltex, Gildan, and many, many others. If you need new shirts for your band or brand and you don't have time to wait for it, head over to jack.inc/4days and get your 4-day apparel, well, in 4 days. Oh, and that leaves so much more time for making sweet, sweet partying. Visit jackprince.com/circle of trust to save even more.
You're listening to the AID Network.
Back to episode 2 of Brand Practice. I made my way up to Portland. We are sitting in the Lincoln Clubhouse, and we are surrounded by friendship and WWE stars. What more could you ask for, right, guys?
Yep.
That's right.
So
Good times.
This is our second episode. Same format as last time. We know that we got the format right. We're going to look at 2 projects that Lincoln did, and then later on, we're going to talk about the branding of Hammer Time as this week's Brand Practice. But before we get into all that, I was very, very excited with the way episode number 1 rolled out. It was great to share the work that you guys did with the audience. And to me, the biggest surprise was not only for myself, was being the client in the recordings and how much the audience and a lot of the designers that listen to the show responded to that little bit of information. Like, I didn't even see that coming when we came up with the idea of this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's good to hear and good to, sit next to the client as they're, reviewing things and going over it, because we don't get that opportunity usually.
Right.
The work goes out, client reviews it on their own behind the scenes, and then we get a snippet of their feedback usually.
Yeah.
So it was cool to kind of hear your feedback as you saw things.
It was definitely easier to fix things as well instead of some email chains back and forth.
Right.
You could just hammer it all out in maybe 5 minutes, fix it all up.
Yeah.
And even the podcast itself had a good traffic amount to our website. So we were very happy with it. Even by 8 a.m., hundreds of hits. So
well, that's kind of the wild thing about us being on the West Coast is that we're actually the last ones to get to it. And the reason why I released the podcast at midnight our time is that's 8 a.m. when our London, England listeners get to work. So it basically just starts the workday over there and just works its way all the way over to the West Coast. So I know an episode's good when I wake up and my phone's lit up. You know, that lock screen has comments from the Circle of Trust and Instagram comments. Yeah. That's when I know that we've done a good job. And it really seemed that people enjoyed it, which I think just goes to show that, you know, branding and identity design, it's one of those things where even when you're good at it, you never feel great at it. Like everybody's hustling to try to get better, and whatever insight they can get from these episodes, they're going to take it because, you know, if you guys look at the work, even at your level, if you look at the work you did last year, many times you're probably like, I'd like to take a shot at that again. I'd like to take a crack at that again.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think you can always make tweaks till the freaking world ends. You know what I mean? Like, for real. Like it. Yeah. So you're gonna have to stop me at some point. Just be like, time's up.
Yeah.
Which is one of the fun things about this project for me is having friends work on the branding of the podcast. Is that, you know, I'm too close to it. Like I would just sit and move things around. 2 weeks would go by and I would have nothing to show for it. You guys are like, we need to get this done in the afternoon and get Bricky out of our fucking schedule. And that works out for everybody. All right, so let's jump in. The first project we're going to look at today is a massive project that Lincoln Design Co. did for WWE Legends. Don't forget, you can always go over to lincolndesignco.com/brand practice to follow along with all the artwork that we talk about today. They've got a really cool mini site within their website over there to follow along with the podcast. But this is a project that all of us dream of doing because the scale of this is just huge. And not only is it the huge scale where there's so much work that you get the ability to kind of get lost in what you're doing, but the artwork that's on the wall here in front of us, you definitely want to check out the YouTube component of this. The wall that's in front of us, this is all the type of artwork that I think many of us want to do. This stuff is fun, right? Like at the core of it, this is actually what we would classify as fun design.
Super fun. Yeah. It's definitely, as far as the brief and being able to do what you want to do and kind of flex your muscle on your own style or something you've wanted to, you know, work on, or a style you've been wanting to tackle, we're kind of let go, kind of all reins are taken off, and we can kind of go wild on a lot of these style guides, and this was one of them.
Yeah, they don't usually nitpick this one too much, and as far as even brief goes, it's usually pretty simple, and we can go to town on, you know, it's pretty open, so if you want to do a, you know, cool badge all the way to a cool illustration, it doesn't even matter. As long as it's good, then they're happy with it.
So what we're looking at and what we're just geeking out over is you guys were tasked to do character design, like not design the character, but design for these characters or these superstars in the world of WWE, the Legends. How many different wrestlers did they assign to you?
So there's 11 superstars that we're asked to do.
Do you mind if I read them off to the listeners at home?
No, go for it.
In this corner, we have Hitman Bret Hart. Next to him, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. No Virgil. Macho Man. No Leaping Lanny Poffo. We have Sergeant Slaughter, Razor Ramon, the Iron Sheik. Oh, I have a great photo of me and Iron Sheik. Rowdy Piper, R.I.P. Ric Flair. Woo! Hang in there, Rick. I'm not your sexy boy. I'm your boy toy. Shawn Michaels. Shepard Fairey's very own Andre the Giant, and Jake the Snake Heartbreak. What was Jake? Roberts. Thank you. Damn. Yep. I was doing so good.
You were flowing.
Wow.
You were stuck on that last one.
Oh, you're going to give a Slim Jim reference to Macho Man, but it's all good.
I went with his brother, Leaping Lanny Poffo, who used to read poetry on Frisbees and then throw them out into the audience. Why that didn't catch on, who knows? Yeah, I wanted to show people that I'm a balls deep wrestler fan. So, okay, we have in front of us, though. So the number on that is what, 11, did you say, or 10?
Yeah, 11.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 11.
Why they didn't do 10 or 12 is amazing.
Right.
So we have 11 superstars in front of us, and for each superstar, you guys were tasked to do how many individual designs?
So it kind of depends, but for the most part, it ran around.
There's like a loose breakdown. It's
I want to say about 30. It's like 20 to 25 graphics
per dude.
Patterns, type,
30 badges,
product mock-ups. So you just need to fill out the page count at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is fascinating about this, to let people understand where all this fun work goes to? Because imagine they've done illustrations of the guys. They've done sort of cartoon characterizations of them. They've done badges or logos. They've made patterns in their honor. But the crazy thing about this artwork is, if I have this correct, all of this artwork goes into a book. And then the book goes to the licensing show and becomes sort of a master guide that if I'm a guy that makes hot air or helium balloons at a party shop and I want to get in the WWE business, these are designs that I can license out and work with?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And use from and to build new art. Like this is a template and guide. You can take this type and mash it up.
A stepping stone.
Definitely. These are initial 30 designs for them to use, and then they're going to turn this into maybe 100 more designs if it's really working.
Yeah. So everything can be pulled apart. Everything has to be layered, editable.
Yeah, just a ton of assets basically.
Yeah.
God, it is such a fun project. And it's crazy to think that you guys are, the above level of licensing, right? Like this is in WWE's mind, when everything goes right, this is what the brand looks like. Yeah. And you all know when you hand a redneck in Kentucky over an eagle that says AID, God bless him. What's he going to do with it on his own? Like later on today, we're going to look at a Hammer Time logo. Once the VG guys get on it, I'm going to send you guys back probably like a hockey bag and pucks. Like there's no telling where it goes once it goes wild. But at this level, this is when the brand gets to control the brand. And I think being brought in at that level, that's a huge honor for what is a global entertainment brand.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're super stoked to get the call and start working on this. We've done a ton of guides for specific superstars. But to be able to work on the OG guide for the legends was a big deal. Doing
stuff with them for years, so to get to do some characters that I grew up with personally, it's just it's easier, what are some of the other guys? Enzo and Big Cass or something. Some guys that I don't really know about, but these guys, I'm familiar with Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, etc. So it just kind of brought it back to home a little bit.
Okay, so now that we've gushed over how fun the artwork is and its usage out into the real world as being sort of a licensing guide, let's talk about how you actually pull off this scale of work. Because if we have 11 guys, 30 something graphics, we're looking at over 350, 330, like give or take monkey math, pieces of artwork we did. First question goes to you, Dan, and this is the hard question. And I don't need the exact number, but like when you get this email or this phone call from your contact at WWE, the phone rings, ring, ring, ring. Hey, brother, this is what we're doing over here at WWE. Guy ducks down, you hear a chair go over his head. I need you, brother. Can I count on you? Can I shake your hand and count on the brotherhood that Lincoln Design Co. can make this happen for me? But when you get that phone call, Dan, this is dream work, but it's a nightmare to try to put it to a pad of paper and figure out. They are a billion-dollar business, but they're not going to give you $1 billion. So you've got to try to figure out, like, God, how do I price 350 merch designs that have endless possibility for one of the biggest entertainment brands? Like that, there's a yay, we got this. But then do you feel like me and go, now I'm fucking completely stressed out on how to write this email back?
Yeah. And basically how do I quote this and how do we get this done in a timely manner?
Yeah. What was the window they gave you?
This a little further, luckily.
Yeah,
if
they were
this
pretty
was
loose.
A normal turnaround, it would be a nightmare. But I think this one kind of ran on for a little bit longer than normal.
Yeah, this ended up being a 3 or 4 month ordeal.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 months, but it's been.
No, I think
it's definitely ran on.
Yeah.
Versus just banging something out in a couple days.
Yeah.
And it was good to hear they kind of knew that, and they kind of left the window open in a way and let us kind of, I don't want to say slowly work on it, but we had other projects going on as well. So it was definitely something that we would work on a couple days a week, week after week after week.
Even like one guy would consistently be on it throughout the week.
Yeah. And everyone else would be jumping on other projects. So,
and we would just kind of design smarter and just, all right, if we got a great type piece now, let's build an amazing illustration around it. And, there's definitely assets here that we can pull. And once you have the, color format set out, it's not as hard as it looks. It's kind of fun, but.
Yeah. And we've done a lot of these. So we kind of have a, like Dustin said, once you know the colors, you're not going to spend a bunch of time picking colors and seeing what works.
Right.
We had that to stick to for each guy. There was a color palette that we developed in the beginning for each guy, based off of their old graphics.
Right. Like with Hitman Heart, we're staying in the
you got the pinks and the
pink,
blacks.
white, black, and silver.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not going to, stray too far from that. So.
And he definitely has his, his elements. You're going to run with the hearts and the flames, and you can go to town on that. So you kind of just eliminate some of the thinking and searching and exploring.
Sorry, I was playing with the wrestling belts. We have real belts in front of us, and in a minute I'm going to do my favorite thing ever, which is when a guy's both like an independent champion, like, he has a belt like intercontinental or heavyweight, like he's got a solo belt, but then he's also in a tag team. So when he walks out wearing one strap and he's got one over his shoulder, it's like, humble brag, I have too many belts for one waist. Okay, so that's how you guys kind of start to break it apart. But Dan, like, when it comes to pricing on something like this, do you try to figure out, like, can you do one and multiply it times 300 and then figure out a discount down from there? Like, how do you kind of work your brain around something so big?
No, not really. I mean, like I said, we've done a ton of guides for them in the past. They're probably usually about, I would say, 30% of this guide, 30, 40% of this guide.
Okay.
Usually.
Okay.
Those guides are still like 100, 140 pages when they're done.
Yeah.
This one ended up being like 280 or close to 300 pages. So it was I kind of broke it down from what we usually charge them, obviously added to that price. And
There's already a point of reference.
yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Because if you get this cold call, you're like, this is insane.
Yeah, this is heavy. Yeah.
This is insane.
I mean, luckily Dan, knows the dude pretty well. And has worked with him for how 5+ years, how long, 10 years. I have no idea.
Well, it's been probably 7 or 8 years, so we have a good relationship going.
And a project like this, you get through a relationship. Like, I doubt that a company, it would take a lot of balls to just cold call a shop and be like, we want to give you all this work.
Right, for sure.
They had a real idea that you guys are clutch. You've done good work for them before. You've met your timelines.
Yep.
You've made a look that their fans can identify with. So then it just expands out. So I like the idea of like, okay, this is 3 or 4 times bigger than what we've done in the past. Let me mess around with the numbers.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people where they pull out their calculator and they go, okay, if I normally charge $500 a t-shirt design, and now I've got 350 in front of me,
right?
And they hit I'm going to make all this money. It's like, they're going to probably be looking at a price break in there, Junior.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the Walmart pricing right there.
Yeah. So definitely, it wasn't as easy as just multiplying.
Right. Oh, if life only worked that way.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Okay, so when you get started on this, how is the internal approval workflow? Like, is everybody did everybody, all 7 of you, work on this?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody kicks in.
Definitely.
And that's where you end up with the wide variety of styles and looks,
Yeah, but it all matches, though. That's the great thing. There's 7 hands that touch this. Yep. And there's variety in there. Not to cut you off, there's variety in there, but you can still tell that the same shop did it and approved it all, which is what I love about Lincoln.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely something that, everybody jumps in on. We couldn't do it without the whole crew. I mean, it's a big project and it's a ton of graphics. So everyone puts their hand in and goes at it, and everyone does kind of what they're good at. They stick to what they're good at. We have Brandon and Damaso concentrating 100% on illustration. Davey's throwing in some illustration with some graphics and badges. Jordan's like the pattern master, so he's is doing 90% of the pattern work on it. So everyone kind of knows their lane and their goals, and what they're good at, and everyone kind of jumps in on those pieces.
If there's 30 per guy, how many do you think are outside the artboard? Like, how many did you not show them, or how many does it take to get to 30?
I mean, there's definitely variations. It's probably that one, but there's probably some variations of it, but it's just that one. Definitely.
Okay.
There's no true exploration on this. And it kind of, you're just going to draw Razor Ramon's face, body, torso, bust. There really isn't too much, exploring on that nature goes. So Brandon can grab a face of Ric Flair and to just really go to town on detailing that out. And, Jordan will do a cool lockup around it. And
how many, how good is WWE on providing you guys assets?
They're pretty good. It depends on the guy and the superstar. Some of these guys didn't have much as far as old photos.
Yeah.
Even so, good stories. Andre the Giant. We have the original photos that were shot back in I don't even know exactly what year, late 70s, early 80s. I have no idea. And you can threshold the face, and it looks exactly like the Obey logo.
Oh wow!
If you look at this thing, I was actually worried because it gets a little close.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That is really just a full threshold on a photo, and you're like, oh, it's the Shep didn't do too much, but
You know, I don't know if I've told you this before, but I've actually held the original Andre the Giant sticker that Shepard made.
okay.
Oh, nice.
Like when I was interviewing him, he was showing me around his office. Guy's got the coolest art collection ever. Like, just
I bet.
he's the guy who buys all the weird old punk stuff that's worth a lot that nobody else has the money but appreciate. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, see those original Suicidal Tendency illustrations I own? I'm like, yeah. He goes, most people don't know this, but Lance Mountain did those. I'm like, what? Like, what an art collection. But he showed me the original Andre the Giant sticker that he made, and he's got it framed in a glass box. And
I
he
was just at an art show recently down in
oh, really?
in LA. Yeah, I saw it as well.
Oh, cool. So you saw the back of it where his roommate wrote, like, going out for tacos, be back. Like, literally didn't know that there was like a monumental piece of pop culture laying in front of him, flipped it over and wrote a note like, I'm going to go get some burritos. I'll be back to the apartment soon.
Definitely.
It's fantastic.
That's cool.
Okay, so this is how it all breaks down, and you have the different levels of it. Does WWE, does their internal art department have a heavy hand and want to kind of get involved in all of these and like, we want to see this one tweaked? Or do they kind of just buy in to the hype of Lincoln and go, we trust you, we know it's a lot of work, we're only going to get involved if something's like really off? But for the most part, do they just let a lot of it go in like untouched by them?
For the most part, yeah.
I feel like it's if you're going to get any changes, it's going to be some minor content changes. Like if you had a dash between Macho and Man on 10 designs and they're like, actually, you know, there's no dash in there.
Yeah.
We'll have to go fix that. It's usually little technical things like that, but
Yeah, because the whole guide gets sent around through WWE, through marketing, through legal.
Oh, wow.
And then it always comes back with a lot of little small tweaks as far as like the Hitman, Bret the Hitman Hart and stuff like that we missed or they have changed in the last couple of years or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things like that we have to go back in and edit. But as far as like, hey, this doesn't look like them, or visually this looks like shit or something like that. Not a lot of that. Yeah.
Is there any on their end? Do they ever have to worry or fight over with likeness issues? Like, because they own they own these guys' likeness as characters, right? Yep. So it's not like they have to. The illustration of Ric Flair has to get sent over to Ric Flair's manager to approve it, right?
And that's why we haven't done the Hulk one, for example.
Yeah, that's why there's certain guys in the Legends Guide that are not in there. Hulk Hogan, for one,
right?
He owns the rights to his.
He owns himself.
Yeah. So,
well, his face was once like printing money, so good for him.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. But no, the internal creative team at WWE basically approves the likeness of the guys. They don't send it out to the actual superstars or.
There's been a couple. I mean, I think one we put a skull as the guy, and they're a little bummed, so they're just like make it the guy instead of a skull of the guy, a Ric Flair piece, Heartbreak Kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
No wait, who's that? Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, yeah. HBK, baby.
Yeah, so we had to change that one.
Sweet Chin
Which
Music.
that was a big change, obviously.
Full, that's
an illustration of a skull. Yeah, this bottom one. Yeah, that was totally redone because they're like no skull of Shawn Michaels.
Oh, so that's the only time you had to modify one of the illustrations.
Fully redo the design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, that goes to show that you guys really understand their world, and it also goes to show that they understand that they're hiring somebody on this type of work. They've got to put a lot of trust in it, that they can't micromanage everything. So then once we get past all of this amazing artwork that's in front of us, and I have the cameras out today shooting for YouTube, so make sure to check out the vlog. Then it gets put into this book that we have sample pages laying in front of us.
Yeah.
And with the book, that's a whole other project, right? Like you guys actually lay it out?
Yeah. So we do the layout of the full guide, which it ended up being 280 pages. So you got to start with basically InDesign file, start with the cover, table of contents, and then start building out basically 11 sections. And throughout those sections, it starts with kind of a title page, and then it goes into a breakdown of the superstar, his background history, his color palette, what he weighs, championships.
That title page is definitely a time taker to get all that done, color palette and all the info.
Can I see a title page?
It's just going to be the first page of every.
Got it. Okay.
That's like the time taker, and from there,
it looks like a DVD menu.
Yeah.
The rest of it's a little just more populating. I mean, we did do a bunch of product mock-ups that are going to be laid out in the file as well.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit more of just populating it versus those other pages. You got to fully design those.
Yeah.
Where am I going to fit? Oh, he is 5 championships. The other guy's no championships. How is this going to lay out?
Wow. What a just huge undertaking this project is. Dan, when you work on something this big, do you just do deposit and payment at the end? Or do you break the payment up into portions?
No, it's portions. It's half up front and half at the end.
Half up front, half at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm looking at this as a business owner thinking, my God, the cash flow.
Yeah.
While you're working on this, when you got 7 guys.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have other projects coming and going, and you have other money coming and going, but what just like a massive amount of dedicated work to do. Wow.
For sure. Yeah, so that's one of those things where you have to have the other projects to support the time in between, you know, with this. When we're not, I mean, we're not going to stop everything, jump on this for a month straight, you know. So it was.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be pretty heavy. And it's one of those things where we'd get burnt out too if we did try and do it like that, you know. So it's cool because we slowly work on it, a couple days a week. You know, the guys jump on other projects, and then by the following week, you're like, fuck, I want to get back on the WWE thing, finish those pieces I started.
It almost makes for better art because it's just kind of in the back of your head. So you're like at the bar
100%.
and you see a little $sign icon somewhere, and you're like, oh, wow, Ted DiBiase, that's a great flip I could use, or an inspirational piece here or there. So
I think that taking a break is really important in all aspects of creativity, because I know with design, you could just hit a mental block where you're like, all right, for the last 30 minutes, I haven't really accomplished anything. Yeah. Just because I told myself I was going to work till midnight doesn't mean I have to sit in this chair till midnight, right? Like you could just get up because you know you hit the end. And I've realized the same thing's been with editing video. You know, like after a while, it's like you fatigue. You know, you're like, I can't make the cuts to the music anymore. Like I'm just losing my attention. And there's just something so great about walking away from it, doing another project, coming back to it the next day, walking your dog, go running errands or whatever. There's just something great about sitting back down in that chair, firing open the file and seeing it with fresh eyes. Like fresh eyes can correct and solve all creative problems.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and a lot of projects we don't get that opportunity, you know, to
because they're just run and gun it.
Yeah. A lot of it's, you know, start, go, you know, get that shit done, turn it over. So these bigger projects like this are fun because you get to kind of
fully marinate.
Slow roll it, and it's good.
I always think about this too. You know, when you start a business, the big hope is that if you do one project really, really well, it'll go out into the world and bring 2 or 3 back.
Yep.
And if that math works out for you, then the next thing you know, you've got more work you can handle, and that means you're growing. That means you have leverage in negotiating. This is so much work, so much quality work, that a year from now, there's no telling what this could recruit back for you. You know, even if it's just internally with WWE, because people maybe don't know how to connect this to you, or when this goes up on your website, like it is impressive that you guys can do this. Like in my mind, I could see someone else like NFL being, hey, we want you guys to do, you know, exploratory looks at 12 of our teams. I mean, this is to have this type of talent in your shop and not have to outsource other illustrators, not have to outsource like a typographer. Like the fact that you guys have built your business to handle this type of work and this volume of work. I don't even know if you guys realize how impressive this is.
Yeah, probably not.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was just say the cool part is like one of these pieces could live on forever. I'm looking at a specific Razor Ramon piece that looks very character-like.
The black and white one straight ahead of me?
Yep, you see that one right there?
Just his head.
Oh, no, there's one that's full color with an arc. You see, I don't know, he's got the grease little thing in the front. But that piece, we'll put it on the website at the top. But just something like that can get us 10 other illustrations in that style alone.
Yeah.
This dirty one right here?
Yeah, I love that thing.
So good.
Just like seeing something like that,
It's
you know, it could
disturbing.
go, you know, Nerf could come in a year and be like, oh, we want, you know, something like this. It doesn't even have to be a project, but just an execution style.
Yeah, in that style. Yeah.
I could also see this type of work, like literally in my mind, I could see this type of work getting, if it made its way to the studios in Hollywood, it shows that you guys have the ability to take several different human beings, break them down into a style guide, stylize them, characterize them. Man, I know you're not an animation house, but you could for sure come up with the template of what something could look like. You know, if somebody wanted to take, you know, something that's from the real world, break it down into characters and then make an app or a video game or video content. Like, I really believe that this body of work could recruit on to several other things. And the beauty is when you get paid to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you guys got paid to do this, basically this humongous demo tape for what else you could do. Do you guys get copies of these books?
We don't. I mean, at this point, they used to.
Digital.
Yeah, years ago, I'd say 4 or 5 years ago.
Print is dead.
When we were doing guides for, Hot Wheels and different things, they would actually print these physical books that had CDs inside. Super nice, super thick.
In the car, you'd open the car up and it'd be a USB drive.
Yeah, so which was amazing. You send that off and you get that book back, and it has all that, everything printed out. Nowadays, hardly any of these guides are ever taken to print. We've printed some older ones here for ourselves just to have a copy of it, but no, there's really never a physical. It lives in a PDF, which sucks.
I've worked at a place in the past that used the licenses, and the books get lost in like one day. Nobody uses those books.
Wow. Well, at least you have the PDF that you could always send over to a prospective client, or
for sure
do some select graphics or pages, because I really feel like to be able to do this much work at this level it's a pretty big accomplishment. It is a very impressive body of work to sit across from. Okay, before we get over to looking at the work that the guys did for Hammer Time, our first ever series that we've had the guys brand, we got one more project to look at this month, which is getting over into a world where I know a lot about wrestling. Don't know so much about the extreme sports. So let's look at this second project here.
All right.
It's a little bit confusing only because you guys do so much work for this parent company and one of their branches, right? So the parent company, if I got this right, is Polaris, correct?
Polaris.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So Polaris is known in what world?
They're the outdoor realm. They probably do everything from quads, utility vehicles, generators, UTVs, snowmobiles.
Actually making the vehicles.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so because you guys don't design vehicles, you end up designing for them the clothing and merchandise.
Yeah, the outerwear,
okay.
Helmets, goggles,
Performance wear, everything.
Yep.
But you actually ended up working with Polaris, right?
Yep.
Through another brand that they bought, correct?
Correct.
So you were first working with Klein.
Yep.
And you worked for them for a while. Then when they got bought, normally most of us be like, well, there goes that rig.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens.
Yeah. But as always, it works out for Lincoln. And you guys got brought along, and now you're working for both the brand you used to work for, but also the parent company, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so this is an insane amount of gear and hard goods and merchandise. Let's start at what people know you for, and then we'll work our way back. So one of the things that you do for them is Classic Lincoln, which is the branding, the badges, the logos that talk to you, the hand-drawn type. When I'm looking at some of these T-shirt designs you've done, some of these patch designs you've done, any one of these, take out their name, put in your name, you can put it on your web store. It feels like signature Lincoln.
Yeah, for sure.
So was this the type of artwork that got you in the door, and then it opened up to other opportunities?
No. We kind of started on the helmet graphic side for them years ago. This is probably six or 7 years ago.
So this is a long-term relationship.
Yeah. It's been a long relationship. They're super cool. They're out in Idaho. They hired us years ago to do a bunch of helmet graphics for them. Mm-hmm. From that, we ended up doing the helmets, goggles, and then started working on their motocross gear, designing those. And then from all that, we ended up working on the apparel side of it.
So it actually went completely backwards.
It did. We started with the more expensive products and the more, high-end stuff, and then kind of went backwards to the apparel.
When you say expensive, what does one of these helmets retail for?
The climb helmets usually go for $400 to $600, I think, on a lot of those.
Top-tier helmets.
Yeah.
What about one of the, and we're going to get to this in a minute, but what about one of these race suits or one of these snow suits?
The pants are usually $200, $250, and the jersey's like $125 or something.
About that. Yeah. I haven't bought full price gear in a while. So.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys might get a discount or know a guy. Okay, so when you're working on this, there's sports apparel, which, Nike makes sports apparel, which is, a performance T-shirt. There's a fabric, but it's not really different than any of the T-shirts that we're wearing today. It's just got a performance in it. But, this is extreme sportswear. Like when you put on one of these motocross sports jerseys.
Yeah, the jerseys. Yep.
I was getting ready to say costume because like it literally takes you to looking like a Marvel superhero, right? Like they're designed to look bigger than life, right?
For sure.
And there's definitely a unique look about it. Like if you're familiar with motocross, there's a look to that versus the snowmobile suits. You can tell there's different little niches and stuff. So, I mean, each gear has different facets to it. The motocross stuff is going to be light, full dye sub, vented. You don't want to be hot, it's
right, because you've got a lot of heat between your legs.
That too, and it's usually hot outside, and it's real. And you have a helmet on, chest pro, so you want to. It's almost like you don't have a shirt on, pretty much.
Right.
It's really light. Where obviously the snowmobile gear is going to be insulated, probably Gore-Tex. Every bell and whistle you could have. So they're definitely totally different.
Two different things, yeah.
So the biggest trend that I'm seeing when Lincoln goes away from the signature design that we all know you for, that we just gushed over in the WWE project, when you go over into doing this extreme sportswear, it's a bit of a different design template for you guys. It's way more vectory. There's like a 45, 30 degree angle on everything. Tell me about the power of these angles, because when I'm looking at the templates of these jerseys and these pants, it literally looks like dude is just a punch out from motion that's happening all around him. And he's just like dissected from this other planet standing in front of us.
That's a good analogy of it. Yeah. It's definitely color blocked. Everything is color blocked.
Yeah, there is a bunch of angles, but one thing to remember, it is a cylinder and you're wearing it, so you're not seeing that angle as much as it's just a line on on the jersey. So
the flat Illustrator files kind of don't
misleading
do it.
a little bit, and it
they
is
don't do
even
it
a little
justice.
kind of confusing when you need to design the back and it wraps around and you're like, shit, where's that line go? I need to make that line go to the back and look cool. So it is a little bit of a Rubik's Cube, but
because if you look at this one, Mark, this is the actual gear,
right?
Of
We're
this, so the second it's actually printed and on somebody, you don't see those angles as much,
right? They're not. Oh yeah, I see. Because from your vector illustration,
you're seeing the shoulder all the way down.
It looks like Iron Man.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're never walking around with your arms out,
right?
That.
Yeah,
right. Well,
but once it goes to this, to the physical product, and you're sitting on a dirt bike or
it gets a little bit more human form around it.
Yeah.
So the design on these it's like, as much as I pride myself on being a skateboarder, and, when I was a kid, BMX was first, skateboarding was second. And BMX, the bike was more expensive. And then if you got into BMX, you also had to buy, the jersey and the pants. Yeah. And I was just so priced out of my element. And so skateboarding came along, and the look for skateboarding was Chucks, blue jeans, and a white t-shirt. Check, check, check. I can make that happen on my budget. But there's something about all this stuff. Like, even though I've never played football professionally and I don't own a dirt bike, this isn't what I would wear down the street.
No.
But the idea,
please don't.
But the idea of putting this on, like, there's like the little kid in you who's like, it'd be fucking cool to wear that once. You know what I mean? Like, because when you see all those guys that ride their expensive bikes on the side of the road and they all have their costumes on, like, I know that if you talk to those guys, if we shot them with True Serum, part of the fun of riding those bikes is getting to wear those costumes.
There is. I mean, it's definitely fun to suit up. I don't know. I mean, they call it a pickup kit if you're wearing your gear out in public, so you definitely don't want to do that. But I just think it's about being bold. And I mean, if you're in the grandstands watching these dudes race, you want to be able to pick out your favorite riders. So you're looking for the big, bold, the green guy's my favorite.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You definitely, because I did some stuff where I had to go out to the Red Bull tour and interview people, and it's the pageantry of it. When a guy goes off these massive dirt jumps, like, they're so like dialed in, like they become graphic art themselves, so that they pop to people in the stands. Like, the NASCAR has a lot more surface than a guy on a snowmobile. So you got to work in the space. But this is all consumer goods that we're looking at, right? Like, this is stuff that
it is.
Guys that are into this, that are fans of this is what they can go buy to put on their back when they rip up the trails in their backyard or wherever it is they go, right?
Exactly. I mean, there's a demo that you're hitting in, in a style and a look that the whole industry has in a way.
Yeah.
And I was going to say some of your favorite riders are also wearing this gear and endorsing it.
Got
to
it.
Make it so.
Got it.
Yeah. I was thinking about, I mean, it is just, you want to make it look fast. Like, the gear needs to look fast.
Sure.
Most of us, let's be real, are pretty slow. So you get the gear that makes you look the fastest, and that's it.
I love some of these color palettes too, like this sort of old school, like, you know, the really bright, it's not exactly cyan blue, but that bright blue with that sort of flat red, like that is that red, white, and blue and black. That is just a classic colorway that just looks so awesome. And with all the angles and the way that these are punched out of another world, like this is completely different than anything I've ever seen from you guys, but it's completely legit for the customer. Right? Like,
Definitely.
This isn't what we would wear, but this is 100% what a guy that owns a $2,500 dirt bike that he gets to drive twice a month, this is what he wants to wear when he's doing that.
Definitely. You go to the dirt bike track, you're gonna see. This is all you're gonna see.
I think I maybe went low on my $2,500 dirt bike.
Yeah,
you
they're
went low.
10K starting. 10K brand new starting. And they're definitely riding 4 days a week.
Yeah.
4 days a week.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a life.
It's a real lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, they're usually working construction all day, too. So
The guy that lives across the street from me has a high performance dirt bike. And on the weekends, like he takes it someplace and then he brings it back and he has a power washer.
Oh, yeah.
And he meticulously gets every piece of mud off of it.
it's so fun.
But what he doesn't know is that I screen printed for years. And when I hear that power washer going, I start to have, what is it, PSD?
Yeah.
No, that's a Photoshop file.
Flashbacks.
I have
Flashbacks.
post-traumatic stress syndrome,
Yeah.
PTSD or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Like, I just hear the I'm like, oh, I gotta go do screens. If I can get the screens done by 5 o'clock and I can mix all my inks by 7, if I can start printing by 8, I might be able to go to bed by 2 a.m. Like that's what's going through my mind while he's cleaning his dirt bike. I'm like, man, one guy's passion is another guy's nightmare.
Yeah.
So with all of this design, something that you pointed out to me, which is crazy, not only are the boys from Lincoln doing the actual graphic arts that are going on the gear to give it the speed and to put the branding in there, but they also give you guys the ability to figure out where all the finishings go, right? Like if this one has like a Henley zipper, or if the zip's all the way down, kangaroo pouch, zippers on the sleeves, like you guys actually get to put your hand in designing the cut and sew portion of these, right?
Yeah, correct. On a lot of the graphic, most of that stuff is for the snow.
Yeah.
The snow industry and the snowmobile gear is that we get to design the actual jackets from start to finish.
Wow.
We'll get a blank template and we can decide where the cuts are, where the stitching goes, where the TPR logos, get sewn, how many zippers there are, if there are any at all,
It's pretty fun. I mean,
Yeah.
if it has
That's awesome.
like water resistant taping, I mean, you can go nuts on all kinds of different little hangers and what's the zipper logo. And it's definitely a fun one. We have some reflection pieces in the corner of the shoulders.
Wow.
You could definitely go to town on these, and it's pretty fun. It's. I mean, we don't get to do this every day, so this is the kind of one where you're like, oh wow, you can explore, and definitely a good one.
That seems unusual that the designer would also get to be the one that figures out sort of these fashion type parts of it, like how many zippers, what kind of pockets and all that stuff like that. I don't know. That seems like a very, very fun thing to get into because you don't have to work around somebody else's mess.
I think they're such a big company and they're ordering so many that they're able to dictate. They
got room to play.
They're coming with a factory with this is what we want. Where a lot of other companies are just buying a template and you're not able to do that cut and sew piece, and you're getting a jacket pre-made with your trim on it. So yeah, Polaris is huge. So to be able to do whatever lines you want, and then you see it come to fruition and into production, and it's the exact jacket you laid out, you're like, oh dang, they actually left the kangaroo pocket on there. That's great.
Exactly, because some of it will get taken out or stripped out.
Yeah, every
a
design.
lot of sometimes we'll take it to the extreme, and then they'll dumb it down a little bit when it goes to production, or they'll come back with, whoa, that costs way too much, and cut it out.
If they told me that I had the ability to put the zippers in, I would straight up come up with like
full Michael
2018 Beat It jacket
Right,
with
full
just
Michael
so
Jackson.
many zippers
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
God, I wanted that jacket. So
Right.
bad.
And these jackets are nice. I think they're like below 10, heavyweight, snowmobile, get stuck in the woods jacket.
They're expensive. And then there's the full kit, the full suit, which is basically like auto mechanic jumpsuit.
Yeah.
When you don't want snow to get in your ass.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you just-
full.
This
It's
is you're
freezing
really
ass.
getting it out there. I mean,
Wow.
it's probably Wisconsin,
Yep.
negative whatever
Yeah.
On the snowmobile driving
miles
to town.
to work. Maybe
To
even
work. Yeah.
That is the exact opposite of a wetsuit.
It is. Yeah, pretty
You could
much.
call it a dry suit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But I mean, this stuff we didn't really stumble into. I wouldn't, it's something that the motocross industry and gear design and helmet designs, that's stuff that Dustin and I grew up with in San Diego.
Oh, so this is part of your past.
Yeah, definitely. We both rode dirt bikes, went to the desert.
You can maybe argue we're both conceived next to a dirt bike in the vicinity.
Exactly. So yeah, there was a lot of time spent on dirt bikes, wearing gear and helmets like this. So we knew, when we were asked to do this stuff years ago, exactly what we were doing. And at that time, we were working with a lot of other companies.
HHC.
Yeah, and Shift and Fox and stuff back in those days. So this didn't just kind of stumble in as like, oh, look at this new motocross client. So,
you have history here.
Yeah, there's definitely history. And at that time, we know the market. So,
well, if I could give you a compliment, and it's going to sound like an insult first, but hang out. We'll get to the good spot. When I see a lot of this gear, I think of really kind of douchey guys, and I also think of douchey design. But what you guys have done is you didn't reinvent the wheel. Like, you didn't take this world and crowbar at something else. You did the best version of this. The type is clean. The angles are strong. It's well thought out. It's well designed. Like, I've seen this stuff before. I'm like, not in a million years would I want to put it on. Some of these suits, like, I would love to just wear this once. Like, it's so fucking cool, right? And I think that goes to show that good design cuts through any sort of product, right? Like, I've seen this stuff before where I'm like, not in a million years. But this stuff all has a smart sensibility taken into a world that feels distant and remote to me. But I understand enough about that world to know that you guys are nailing its aesthetic, just doing the smart version of it. Did we get to the compliment in there?
You did.
Yeah, so I would say the market is very bro-y.
Okay.
But once you go third gear mid wide open on a dirt bike, it doesn't matter. You'll quit everything else you're doing. Like you'll be down with all the bro-y douchebags basically.
All right.
I mean, the thing is, like, I love the idea of the dirt bikes. If this stuff's on TV, it stops me dead on my tracks. I was one of the people that watched the reimagining of Evel Knievel last Sunday.
Yeah.
Like
with Travis. Yeah.
Yeah, like I love that. It's just when I'm in Huntington Beach,
The market.
and I see three guys pull up that look like Power Rangers, and they're very, very on the they're pegging out the bro needle. Yeah. It's just like, it's not my world, but this makes the world seem more appealing to me, and it's really, really great design. So I'm happy that you guys showed this to me, because it's probably kind of hard for you guys to crowbar this into Instagram or work it into the website. Like, this is probably one of the big clients you have that just exist in the background, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we don't show a ton of moto gear or helmet designs or anything like that.
Like you said, the moto industry isn't super, like, let's just say, I don't know, sought after. So if you put one of these up compared to 10 badges on a page, the 10 badges is going to pop off on Instagram. So it kind of just is what it is, but it's something we both from and did our whole life. So it's actually really fun, and it's actually really different. If you look at another design studio, when they try to attempt to design gear that, if they're not from the market or into it at all, you're going to tell, and it's going to look very different and weird. And I want to see somebody try to tackle a helmet design, because it's going to look like, I don't know. It's going to look not like it's supposed to.
No, I think the thing that cuts through to me is that I can tell that this is done by people that understand the world.
Right.
And a lot of times I've been surprised, I guess when I got into design, I thought that everybody who was working on stuff was passionate about it. And then as you go along, you meet people that are these internal designers at companies. They're like, oh, well, fuck outsourcing everything. We're just going to do it internally. Yeah. So you meet these people that are like designers for companies that they have no emotional connection to the product, and they start just designing for approval versus what matters and what would work for the brand. Like, they just do whatever Rick from marketing will approve. Yeah. And so you see some of this stuff done a lot of times that it just, that it's missing the mark, and you're not even in their demo, right? Like, you just see that it's just really, really bad design. But this stuff perfectly companions to the idea of your Hot Wheels design, where you guys, the cuts, the angles, the fast type. But the most important thing here that I would like to drive home is you don't crowbar the lifestyle design you guys do, into the sports design. Like, you do lifestyle design for them. Yep. And I'm sure this really does well when a guy already has a $20,000 snowmobile. You get him to leave with the $35 t-shirt and keep him a customer. But you guys didn't crowbar this stuff into the sports uniforms, if you will, because if you did, these guys would look like assholes.
It's it's definitely two totally different.
They look like astronauts. If you
Yeah.
start putting badges on
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
kits,
all the gear. Yeah.
you'd look like an astronaut or like a safety guy or something, you know, like it just
Yeah.
doesn't work there.
Yeah.
All right, what do you say? We've talked about WWE, we've talked about motocross. Now let's talk about the road to the Beatus. Let's jump into Hammer Time. Let's look at the work that you did for one of our most popular shows and see how we were able to brand what has become everybody's favorite thing to do on Friday, Hammer Time. What do you say we get into that next?
Yep. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's drop the hammer. Okay. Are you drooling? Are you having a good time? The WWE work the boys did is mind-blowing. What a dream job. And looking into the work that they did for Polaris, I find that to be fascinating how these guys just keep getting hired, working their way in deeper and deeper with the company, staying around for the long haul. When you listen to Brand Practice, there is so much that you can learn, whether you're just getting started or you're on the long run yourself. Coming up in part 2 for members of the Circle of Trust, we're going to look at the new logo for Hammer Time, the hit show that we have every Friday. You can find it over at Apple iTunes under Violent Gentleman's Hammer Time. Violent Gentleman is my partners in this episode or in this series of episodes that we do every Friday. And you can head over to vghc.com to get a beautiful Hammer Time blouse. Guess what? They're just on the homepage. They're just right over there hanging out on the homepage, along with tons of other great stuff. And while you're in the shopping spirit, while the credit card's hot and the magnet strip is sticking, head over to Lincoln Design Co. Their shop has so many rad products in there, designed with the same TLC that they do for AID. Okay, this next part is mainly for Circle of Trust members. Circle of Trust members, if you're new here, they are the people that support this show. Because they support the show, yesterday was our 800th episode. And if you go over to youtube.com/adventures in design, you can see part of the 800 episode filmed with our VR camera. There will be video coming soon of the Brand Practice episodes. There will be tons of new episodes coming soon. Everything is always coming. It's always getting produced. It's always getting released because the COT has the back of AID. That's right. Our members are the ones that keep this going. They keep it growing. And that's why they get the full copy of every episode, as well as our archive to over 800. So because you've gone on the voyage this far, I do want you to hear some about the branding that we did for Hammer Time. But to hear it all, you have to support the show and be a member over at aidpodcast.com. Become a member of the Circle of Trust. Just alone with your membership, you'll unlock the full copy of the other Brand Practice, as well as 2 or 3 other episodes that I have with Lincoln Design Co., where we explain their origin story and talk about how they became branding superheroes. Let's get started with part 2. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for being a part of episode 801 of Adventures in Design. I got choked up. All right, friends, this is my favorite part of the episode. This is where we look at the actual brand practice that has gone on. Today's episode, we have looked at WWE. We looked at Polaris. We looked at Climb. I actually have a pair of their gloves.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the gloves are sick.
Yeah.
Back in my
high
glove days, when I was in the glove climate. No more gloves. Those days are behind me. But now we're going to look at branding for Hammer Time. This is always interesting for me to get to be the client. Basically the vibe that I gave to Lincoln is that Hammer Time comes on every Friday. It's the end of the week. It's guys hanging out, having fun, busting chops. And it's just, I've tried to set up the podcast where Monday, we ease our way in. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays are pretty heavy with information. That's why this show lands on Tuesdays. And then we end the week with buds, almost how you want your work week to be. You want to go in light, get a lot of work done in the middle, and then just have fun at the end. So the idea was that the Hammer Time logo should be masculine, that it should be a companion to the Violent Gentleman brand that we're partnered up with, but that it should also not take itself too seriously. And I was excited to see what we got. So let's jump in. You're definitely going to want to follow along with this over at lincolndesignco.com/brand practice. Let's jump in and look at number 8. And we will work our way up to the final one that got picked. And let's do it that way. So looking at number 8, this one plays a lot off of the hammer. And when I first saw this, it just immediately went to my mind. I had always thought of Hammer Time as being working class and being the traditional American claw hammer that we all have several of. Yep. This was the first time I ever saw it as like Thor and Vikings and smashing things. And I feel like if we were to be on your WWE board, this branding would go perfectly in with that world.
Yeah, it's definitely...
Yeah, first and foremost, you got to have a hammer with this logo.
Yeah.
Wherever you end up, it's just like,
yeah,
not a clock, a hammer. So definitely, yeah, Jordan went nuts with the Thor version. It's pretty cool. I definitely think it's just too Thor. First and foremost, it's just too Thor, so I didn't think it was going to work because of that. But I think we could all agree that you need a hammer for this logo.
You have to get to a hammer.
Have to.
At some point.
Especially since, they're tougher dudes. We got to have a tougher logo, and, what's tougher than a hammer, so... Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. This was a fun one. It's pretty straightforward.
What I do love about Series 8, if we could go with the one that's in the top left, I love the idea of you have your hero illustration, which is the hammer, but the way that all kind of organically flows into a bit of a shield design, I really, really like that interpretation of the shape of it. And as a designer and as somebody who's a design junkie, on these type of designs, on number 1, number 2, and then number 4 in the bottom right, I really like how designers fill things out with small details.
Yeah, Dustin's the master at filling the little gaps.
The pockets.
Yeah, the little pockets.
Yeah, I'd be filling holes.
He loves those little pockets.
This one, it's definitely perfect. Yeah, you got the half dome on the bottom, and I mean, at that point, initially we weren't going to try to have any content in there as far as names and all that stuff, but then you start to need to have content. So it's like, all right, we're gonna put your Mark's name in there. We're gonna put the host's name in there, and then the guest's name, and then trademark, and which you probably don't have a trademark, and we're gonna put all that in there, and that's pretty designerly, what you need to do, and you even have your defaults like authentic and original,
right?
The same width, the same amount of letters. So you always
trademark, and you have year established, and
established is hard. It's so long. So usually, if you're going to do that, it's 3 letters EST with the years 4, so it doesn't ever balance. So you're going to have to find the ones that.
I like to do EST dot, and then it balances a little bit better with the years.
If it was made in at least 1999, the M space is about half the width, so it's a bit easier. But if you're in 2000, it's just going to be a hectic. So. All your live freeze and all your really symmetrical words work nice. So the TRD, MRK, all those things are perfect. So
what's really nice about 8.1 is, though, that suggestion of the shield. The shield's not really there, but if you play your cards correctly and you just suggest it enough, you can make something feel like it's there. So if that were to be put on a patch, be put on the front of a hat, it would look pretty authentic. It would look, it would command attention being in that shape. Also in this series, if you look over at number 2, they're just horizontal lines done with a nice brush that has a tapered end on both sides. But those 3 lines at the top, the 2 lines at the bottom, just adding lines inside of the space fills that particular logo out, gives it a lot of depth, makes it feel very balanced. Like, you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to find stars and moons and little nails. Like, just horizontal lines really build that one out quite well. And then there's always the pro move of big type companioned with little type. You got Hammer Time Podcast, then you got Mike Hammer Violent Gentleman. Like, that's always such a good move to create balance. Big type, little type.
definitely.
It's definitely always about hierarchy.
Yeah.
The hierarchy is number one. So if that icon was a little bit stronger, I think that the lines wouldn't matter. I think right now you really do look at the lines a little bit. HT doesn't really have any ownability yet. You would have to put that there. So you'd probably have to have a hammer time piece in there. Yeah. I mean, that's really splitting hairs right now, but yeah, I think if it was a stronger icon, the lines would be just fine.
Yeah, and this was definitely one we didn't think would make the cut or be close,
It's almost one of the exploration points.
Yeah, we were just exploring, whether, because we didn't know if you were going to come back with, hey, this isn't a construction company. I definitely don't want the claw hammer.
Right.
And that's one of those things with, with clients and things, if you don't get a lot of feedback up front, you don't know what a hammer is to them. Are you going to come back and say, hey, that claw hammer, that's construction. This is not a construction thing. Yeah. I wanted the Thor hammer,
Or it was more about the time than the hammer.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a really great point of, if you kind of give it all to them, like, so let's say that I thought I didn't want a claw hammer and I was thinking of it in more like a Viking type sense. And I see the Thor hammer. Sometimes you got to see what's inside your mind to realize that you're wrong. And so you could look at this and be like, I don't know. This makes it feel more cartoony, and I'm more gravitated towards the more traditional hammer. Before we leave number 8, I wanted to point out some of the really great concepts that are in 8.4. Putting the diamond behind it is nice. It sort of gives it like a little bit of a shield and creates a little bit of strength with it. But never underestimate the power of a banner. And when you put a banner over something, always remember to leave the negative space stroke so that it's not attached to it, so that it doesn't look like a weird handle on the actual Thor hammer. I see a lot of people try to use the banner move and they do it wrong because they don't properly
disconnect the banner from the
because you want to those gaps, those negative space gaps, that creates depth and it makes the banner feel like it's over the top of the hammer. I'm always surprised how many bad designers or younger designers haven't quite figured out that you should always be placing things on top of each other. So if we study this one, we feel as if the banner's first thing in our world, the hammer's next, and the diamond shape is pushed behind it. So we actually have 3 layers in this one little mark, which just creates depth and action, makes it feel like it's alive and not just something stagnant on the side of your monitor.
Yeah, it's definitely adding value. I mean, I think the reason why that podcast word is popping out so much is because it's in white type.
Yep.
It's the only white type on that design, so it has the most negative space around it, so it's just going to jump out. That's why that's first in the hierarchy. Obviously, the strokes are also feeding into that, but because you're seeing that before hammer time is because it's white on black background.
Yeah. All right.
Even hold on real quick. Look at the first design. Look at the word C in cast. I almost see that more than I see
before
anything on the whole page.
Yeah.
On the whole page, and it's because the amount of black surrounding that.
Yeah.
This particular logo, I would love to see it as a stencil. I feel like a little roughed up, like spray paint, cut a little bit sloppy. I feel like the sloppier this one gets, the more personality that it would have. All right, moving up to comp number 7. This time around, we went with something that was way more type-based. And I have to say, I really, really like the HT on its own, but I felt as somebody who's really spent 800 episodes making a podcast, 4 years of trying to communicate things through social media where people just do not read. I'll repeat that. People don't read on social media. I know this for sure. I felt like the HT, as nice as it is, and as much as I want that on the breast of a t-shirt as a pocket print, I just didn't feel like it communicated enough. I feel like people need their hand held a little bit more. I'm a believer in that typeface. I love it. It would make a great t-shirt, but I didn't see it making a great branding mark.
Yeah, this definitely wasn't one of the favorites. The HT, I think the idea is there. The fact that the H is connecting to the T on the bottom there, it's a little hard to read, a little confusing.
Yeah, but the idea of the HT I think is really strong in the circular format. I think the crossbar, the H needs to be dropped down, and then you're going to worry about the crossbar, the T touching that, and there's all kinds of issues going on there. But I think that icon is
it could be something.
It's a very good start.
Yeah.
The type, whatever, is cool. It's definitely cool, but that icon I think could be Definitely. It has like a Santa Cruz vibe a little bit to
It
me.
does, which was one of the instructions I gave you on all of these, is that I wanted them to feel like network logos and to be inspired by the top of an 80s skateboard deck. Yeah. I say we do a little bit of adjustment to this, and we start a new show called Hand Jobs with Mark Bricky, and we're so close to making this a HJ. I mean, we can really pull this off, and I've been wanting to do a show about hand jobs for a long time. America's favorite pastime.
Easy.
The mark that's over on the right, the actual full blown out hammer time, I love the nail as the eye. And really, when I started looking at this branding you guys did, it was the first time that I had really ever even thought about the nail and the branding. Like I was
nail and the hammer.
Yeah, I was so focused on the actual hammer that I didn't even think about what that item's companion pieces are, you know, when you're trying to tell a visual story. So once again, the one on the right, the hammer time with the AID above it, the hammer being sort of the extender of the T, and the eye being replaced with a roofing nail. I really, really like it a lot. It just, you know, feels more like a t-shirt graphic, less like something that you could just put on everything till the end of time.
Definitely. Yeah. The shear type's going to be a little bit hard to use without a container shape.
Yeah. Okay. Moving up to number 6. Number 6, I really enjoyed the sort of different take on the HT, right? Like the whole putting them together, making... It's not really a monogram because it's kind of futuristic. Almost looks like a Chinese character.
Yeah, it's
or a
definitely
kanji.
clean. Yeah, and it has that spike as the T.
I think visually it does look very attractive. I think visually it's strong, but I think for the podcast, the hierarchy's wrong, and I think you read TH. You could maybe say Tony Hawk logo, something as far as that goes. But
hey, if you guys want to keep on this one and give it to Tony Hawk, because I know you work for him, I gave you my permission.
Thank you.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
I think or whoever did this, Jordan or Davey, was inspired by the current Tony Hawk logo because it may be a similar TH, but I think every TH logo is locked up in that manner. So
yeah.
I just read it wrong. I think if you could read the H first and then the T, then maybe that would have been the one. But
I think one of my favorite things about doing brand practice is that we show the audience everything. And I love showing people how hard best people in industry work to get the best results. And this is one of those ones where you're like, you have an idea for the HT, you execute it. Then you try to build some stuff around it. And it was a worthy pursuit, but ultimately you're just like, it works. It's not right for this client or this project. And sometimes you just don't know that until you take a couple hours, build it out a couple of different ways, and then you just step back and go, nah, it was a worthy attempt, but it's just not right. And there's no shame in that, because I think that every time you do that, it gets you a step closer to what the real answer is. And if you're presenting to a client and somebody that works at that corporation, maybe you're meeting with 3 people that represent a big corporation. Maybe somebody there was thinking that they wanted something really clean, really modern. They see it and they go, okay, I'm glad I know what that looks like, because now I know that it's not what I want. I think that's part of what you get to when you do so much work for one result.
True. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you have to look at, you know, every aspect of it, or as much as you can. And eliminate, you know, what works and what doesn't work. And this obviously didn't work.
I mean, I even think at a certain point you're also designing layout versus just the monogram, because once, you know, Jordan finished the monogram, he started working on layout, and maybe there was something there that he realized that this layout works great for the next design. So you almost, all right, this icon's
not a waste
done.
of time.
No.
You know, it's like it never
you finish
is.
the icon and then you just move on to layout. So
Yeah.
Well, and because we're a generation that gets to do all this in Illustrator, and we're not draftsmen at a table, like all this stuff is sitting on an artboard. So if real quick you're like, oh, I want that real thin type, or the way that he has the out on Comp 6.1, the way that he has text at the top and the bottom, and then has that thin line. That's a really well outer shape that you never know when you're doing this process. Like, oh, I'm going to go over to 6.1, grab that circle, put it around this other thing that I've done. And, you know, so you don't even know where these pieces and parts, like maybe these lightning bolts that get used later on, maybe this is where they originated. You've got those sitting there just to like grab and put in the next one. So I just feel like none of it's wasted, because it's all towards working out a problem and knowing all of your options.
Definitely.
For sure.
It's always evolving.
Yep.
I mean, even if, again, we do go do a Tony Hawk job in the future, in their mind, they have like, oh, I did this TH problem solving in the past. So
Yes.
you can apply it there.
You're right. And even if you don't go back and open up the Hammer Time file and pull it out, you nailed it, Dustin, where you have that problem solving in your brain. And right away, you're like, well, I know when you do a T and a H together, this is how you put the line break so that it reads as TH instead of HT, because I had this problem before. All right, moving on to number 5. Number 5, I really, really liked a lot. Like, I liked it a lot. To me, the one on the right looks like it could be if the History Channel had fucking balls, like fucking Vikings on the History Channel. But the one on the left is really, really good. It follows the request of, I want these to look like station logos. You know, the whole idea of the DirecTV pamphlet or the Sirius XM radio, where it's, you know, you get value by seeing all the different networks within inside of a service. So I really, really liked it from that. And this was one that I enjoyed. But ultimately, when I stepped back and looked at it, I thought that it just felt maybe a little bit too much like it came from the world of. Thank you for listening to Adventures in Design podcast. To hear part 2 of today's episode, visit adventuresin.design. Click where it says Circle of Trust and help support the only daily talk show designed for creative professionals just like you. Thank you for listening. Good day and good design.